Joining me is a public affairs analyst and chartered accountant, Sheson Okwadi. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Morning. Thank you very much.
Now, years after privatizing the sector, we keep facing issues of grid collapse, transmission, and here we are again with the blame game. What really is the problem? Have we identified what the problem really is?
Yeah, I doubt if we've actually identified the problem. If you see from the blame game between TCN and DISCO, the major reason for the collapse was that the DISCO turned down, getting grid from the transmission. And this is like demand and supply. You have something to push for people to consume, you are not taking it. It's like feeding a 3-year-old baby with a big bowl of rice. Definitely you expect him to throw up at the end of the day. And that's what we observed at the Benin transmission station, because so many of the DISCO that are supposed to get what the TCN are transmitting refuse to get. And what is their excuse? Their excuses is always they cannot pay for what they are getting from them, because there are a lot of energy losses on the technical part. So, and that's why the major problem we're having is that the last tier of this level, we have the generation, the transmission, and the DISCO. The DISCO are yet to get the connection policy right. What everybody is yearning for currently is about meters. But it's beyond meters. If you look at the way some of our connections have been done, it's like they are cobwebs. It is in this part of this world you see 25 people connecting to the pole, and it will be very difficult for you. Even they have it very difficult to trace fault anytime a particular resident is complaining. So with that, how do you manage your revenue? It's pretty difficult. It's not about meter. We've said it times with that number. They should try as much as possible to have the right connection policy. If you have the right connection policy, put into play the legal framework. There is serious energy theft. In the next few years, they cannot recoup what they are getting. It's not about meter. They've been able, you see.
But the focus has been on metering. That was why they came up with the meter access providers.
Yeah, it's for those people to get it. Yeah. But you see, they brought out a scientific thing that should give them an open eye that they are not doing it right. They metered the transformer, metered some residents, and there is still energy loss. So who caters for that? So if I supply like 25 kilowatts to this area, and via what they are vending on the prepaid is just 13. Who take care of the 12 loss that they are taking? That is why it's difficult for them to meet up their obligation to the TCN. So the problem we are facing still go back to the DISCO. They should have the right connection policy, which they are expected to do. Majority of them find it difficult. See, recently I just came back, and you see the way and manner people put connection into place. Not that you see cobwebs and somebody is tapping the light of the other person, and the guy feels that, no, this is not going to be possible. So what we are crying for is that the DISCO should go back to the drawing board. It's not about metering. We have tested it. What we want is have the right connection policy where you can trace. What would be the
right connection policy?
You see, first and foremost, somebody is building a house. The most difficult thing to do is he wants to get a free meter. Aside that, he wants a situation. I've seen people where they have metered prepaid, and they are complaining that the meter is running fast. Why? No meter is running fast, but they are not managing the electricity. In developed country, you see people switching off their light when they are not there. But here you have people connecting their security light without switching it off. These are some of the things that go to the grid. And when they capture some of those things, that's where we have the loss. So we want the DISCO to go back to the drawing board, have the right connection policy in a situation where they can trace whatever anybody or anyone is using correctly, and you'll be able to bill perfectly. and be able to take care of your responsibility to the TCN, so that we won't be having this atmosphere of saying that we don't want electricity. Now it's being generated, but we are not utilizing it.
All right, we have to leave it at this point. Sheson Okwade, thank you so much for your time on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you, Veronica.
Joining me now is a public affairs analyst and chartered accountant, Sheson Okwade. Sheson, it's good to have you join me in the studio.
Morning, Mike.
Now, the point there is, a lot of people have said, it seems obvious that government is not ready to work on light or electricity or energy issues yet, because this blame game that agencies, companies that are, even though they are private, but they hold what it takes to move Nigeria forward, and government is not doing anything. It seems government doesn't have the will to change things in the power sector.
Yeah, I'll support that particular aspect, that government is not doing what is needful for this new investors. But be that it may, an investor who actually invested in a business knows the reason why it's there. But it's surprising that majority of them does not even understand the reason why they took over the disco. The fundamental that we have seen over time is that the foundation of most of the discos are purely wrong. We don't have the right connection policy. Two, the regulatory body, as far as I'm concerned, does not even understand the business of electricity.
Why would you say that?
See, if you go to other parts of the world, the developed world, if you see the way electricity are being connected, there are some areas you even get to, you'll find it difficult to ask, do they have electricity in this area, in other part of the world? But here, possibly, I won't say because we are Africans. No, go to some other West African country. You will see that their connection policy is right. Here we have cobwebs where you cannot even trace a particular connection to a particular building. Cables all over the place. Flying up and down. People are tapping light from other people. People are paying for other people's usage. It's really, really bad. The fundamental of it is that the disco should get their ass together, have the right connection policy, where you should be able to trace a particular thing to a particular place. Where you have just a single cable, you say we have engineers, but I don't know why they have decided to sit back. Just ordinary one cable can fit like a 6 flats. And from there, you have a distribution box to everybody's flat. So when there's a problem, you know where to trace it to. But you see, here we have come to the level where you see people installing meter on the pole and causing kiosk. That is not where we are. And that is why it's difficult for them to account for the energy. Despite that they are installing prepaid meter, they are complaining that TCN, we don't want the supply. It's difficult to hear that somebody is giving you food to eat and you say you don't want.
Well, where do we start from now with all of this complex issues? Like you use the word cobwebs, and actually that's how it looks like. Sometimes when you go and you stand and you look at the poles, you see wires, cables coming from all over the place. And when we used to have the landline, the telephone landline, it sometimes also compounds on, because they seem to be managing and helping in cases where there are crises too. You see, on the same pole.
Where we need to start for is the regulatory body should put the right connection policy in place. It's in this part of the world somebody is building a house, and the first thing you're doing is you want free meter, you want free connection, nobody is paying for that. Let the regulators put the right connection policy where you have to pay to have the right structure to get the connection right.
They're starting with the MAPS program.
As far as I'm concerned, metering is not the problem. It's the connection that's the problem.
Yeah, but
because as we speak, I've seen an estate where they metered them, and the meter at the transformer does not synchronize with what they are getting on the revenue. So there's already a loss on that path. Who pay for that? It's the disco. It's quite shocking that the disco are not taking this seriously, because when you do energy audits, you have at the transformer that they have used about 1,000 kilowatts, and you expect that the submission of 300 people on this transformer should accrue for that.
All right, but however way, on the other hand, when it comes to seeing it from the window of value for money, at least meter them first. Let's see how we can say, okay, this is how much you consumed and this is how much you're paying.
Yeah, with the MAP policy is a welcome idea. Right. Let them meter. The ball will go back to the disco, and it is then they will sit up.
All right. Thank you very much, Sheson Kwade, for coming on the program.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. Right.
Joining me is a public affairs analyst and chartered accountant, Sheson Okwande. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you, Ife.
Now, several times now, despite government intervention, because the government has tried to intervene despite privatizing the sector, yet we still are faced with several challenges of metering problems, power grid collapse, and all of that. What are we not getting right?
Yeah, we need to understand the arms that are associated with this grid stuff. We have the generation, we have the transmission, and we have the distribution, which are the discos. There has not been so much issue between the GENCO and the transmission, but we've been facing a lot of problem between the transmission and the disco. And the problem is the disco find it difficult to account for what they are getting from the TCN. And the major problem we are having here is there is no proper measure of what people are consuming. See, the disco needs to carry out a proper connection policy, proper enlightenment of the people.
Do they understand that this is what they are supposed to do? Because it is believed that they are able to handle these challenges. That's why the government, you know, privatized the sector.
You see, I blame the government too, because it's not about you putting on paper that you're able to do things. Do we even monitor some of the things that these discos are doing as against what they promise? Should we be monitoring
what has been privatized?
We should still do. Because it's not, for me, it's privatized, but government still has control over this because electricity is one of the major things that they're supposed to provide to us. So that you left it in the hands of the private people does not mean that you should just leave it because it has not been working. We've been having so much generation. There was a time that Sahara Group said they are going to be selling electricity to the neighboring country because the one they are generating here is not properly being accounted for, so they feel they are running at loss. So we discovered that the disco has some work to do. We should sanitize the system.
When you say sanitize the system, how do you mean? You want the government to revoke their contracts?
No, it's just to put some of those things in place. Let's have the right connection policy. Let's have a neat connections where people can see. What we are seeing these days from the disco is an eyesore. I myself, there is no how you can account for some of those things. That's one. On the part of we the consumer, there should be a legislation. There is serious energy theft. Which the disco should take up. There should be a situation where there will be a policy at the state level. So we're not talking of the federal people anchoring this, now the state level.
So does this mean that they are overwhelmed by all of these issues? That
they are not overwhelmed. It's just proper planning. Putting the right thing at the right place is what they can do to deliver, because we will continue
to do that. Over 5 years, they've not been able to achieve
anything. We will continue to experience this collapse because day by day, you've had situations where discos are diffusing transformers of consumers. With that, what you are sending is that, okay, if you diffuse, that means what you are getting from TCN is going to be low. If you've been taking like 400 kilowatts from them to service your people, you're telling them, please reduce to 300, reduce to 200,
so
reduce to 100.
How can government intervene in this issue now? Because, like I said earlier, government have been making interventions because we
don't need the intervention.
Meter asset providers.
We need the regulators to put the right specs into the right thing and let the disco do the right thing. The first thing they need to do, they've done the map. Very okay. Everybody is going to get meter. But the disco should have the right connection policy. There should be fee attached to you when you want to connect electricity. Because take, for example, all you need is just probably to a 6 flats, just a connection of wire, get the distribution box that everybody takes light from. Not you having 27 wires going to the
But some other persons will say, why are we not looking at having underground cables?
Because you know every Nigerians, once you take a step, they take 5 steps ahead of you. So if you have an underground cable, you won't know when somebody will go. And even the one we have overhead, people are tapping and you don't know. You see yourself that a supply is being tapped from the back end and somebody is paying for somebody usage. So we want the right connection policy, situation where people can see neatly when there are problems, you know where to take it to. And people will just take it up from there.
All right, Sheson Kwade, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.